online, on the TuneIn app, and on your smart speaker. Play Shock Radio.
This is Shock
News.
Hi, welcome to the Shock News podcast. I'm Will Phillips. I'm joined by Noah Buckingham Reid. How are we, Noah?
Good, it's been a week, hasn't it?
It has been a week.
I mean,
this week
you've got to hope that you've not tried to get to London at 7 a.m. this week, so...
No. One of many stories we'll be discussing this week. So, first up, Greater Manchester first Your Party councillor.
Crazy, isn't it?
It is insane.
It's the first one in Greater Manchester. He's been a councillor for 30 years in Salford. Many people... I mean, there's been... I'd say mixed opinions on his decision, but he resigned from the Labour Party back in March. Many expected he'd make a shift. He's been an independent councillor. I think he did show some support for the Independent Alliance in Parliament after he sort of disavowed the Keir Starmer government. And now he's made the move to Your Party in sort of the wake of Your Party conference. And we saw a lot of that happening over the weekend.
And how do you think it will affect Your Party as a whole? We've obviously had a bit of a mixed bag, I suppose, starting out as a new party. Some highs, some lows. Do you think getting a defection like this will give them some good news?
Well, defections are always big for, upstarting political movements. You want to get names on side. And we've seen that, the Greens have angled for big names. They wanted some big defections. Last week they had Lloyd Russell Moyle. Your party are looking for councillors too. And they, especially because they focused on having a sort of local upstarting type vibe to the party, I'd say. They really want to focus on local democracy, building from the ground. And I just think having a local councillor like this in an area which has traditionally been quite heavily Labour is telling voters it's okay. You're the same guy I voted in. So John Warmsham's been a councillor for 30 years, like we said. It's okay I voted him in. It's okay that if I believe in his politics, I believe in him as a person.
You'll believe in
He
your
believes
party.
in the vision for your party. I think it's going to open up people's minds, especially in an area which is, in polling been around here about, they voted Labour quite consistently.
And obviously, it voted Labour during the Corbyn years, and this is obviously just a continuation of that, I suppose. Do you think that maybe Corbyn will hope that this is the start of many defections that will then lead to maybe him going back that massive following he had as his time as the Labour leader?
So I think it's probably worth saying that Your Party is now the project of Jeremy Corbyn, of Zara Sultana, who is another defection from Labour, and this is their new political project. Could it reinvigorate that same passion? That's what they're going to aim to do. But he was backed by a very highly rational and productive communications team through the Corbyn campaign. What he did achieve through that was the biggest, Labour vote for decades. The biggest numerical Labour vote. We talk about Keir Starmer's big majorities, and we talk about Blair's big majorities. On a pure voter count, over 10 million votes, more than, we're nearly a million up on what Keir Starmer got last year. It's massively mobilising. People believed in the Corbyn project. He faced huge difficulties when leaving the Labour Party, but everybody moves on in politics. This is the political world. I know we're going to talk about a little bit about what's happened this weekend and sort of the build up to Your Party and the sort of the difficulties in doing that. But Corbyn's done it, and he could do it again.
So you mentioned it there. Obviously, this weekend they had their first annual conference, and I think it's fair to say that it was a bit of a mixed result. Obviously, they managed to fill out the stadium, the hall, in Liverpool. However, Zara Sultana was not in attendance, I believe.
She was not in attendance on the Saturday. She decided to boycott her own event on the Saturday, which I think many people found shocking, surprising. She's got a core base in there. I think what the impression that I got from the conference was that it's a balance of people, and leftist politics have always had sort of this issue of having to balance up, maybe more ideological purists, maybe more people who are out on the fringes. And what a movement like this has to do is encompass all types of people. I'm not sure they're doing a great job of doing that. Of course, we talked about Zara Sultana's boycott on the Saturday. That was because she felt like there was a witch hunt on her sort of supporters. So she said that there was just turmoil leading up to it, that two of the original Independent Alliance MPs, obviously we know Adnan Hussein and Iqbal Mohammed, have since quit the party. There's been infighting. She called it a witch hunt on the first day. She was outside Conference Hall. She said there's unelected bureaucrats and faceless enforcers, so sort of referencing sort of Corbyn's allies, she said it echoed the rhetoric and sort of the type of action taken by the right of the Labour Party, which she and Corbyn completely disavowed when they left the party. They did vote on a few things once they were in there. There were some speeches. Zara Sultana spoke on the stage on the Sunday. When you look back at it, I think you'll see it as a weekend defined by infighting.
And not a very good start for the party as a whole.
Not a positive start. They did vote on the party name, so they did confirm.
And it landed back on your party.
It landed back on your party, which is another sort of sign of the circus a little bit, the circus that's been playing out. But they did also vote on the leadership model, so they're going to have a collective leadership rather than a single person leadership. So it's not going to be a battle between Corbyn and Zara Sultana for the leadership. We know now it's going to be collective leadership. We know there's going to be dual memberships. It's going to allow people from other political associated groups to also be members of your party, and they voted on making sure they kept online democracy, so members can vote online.
Do you think having that committee-based leadership style, do you think that will lead to more infighting? Obviously, having so many people at the top rather than there being one sole leader of the party. So obviously, they've had a lot of issues so far with kind of having a clear direction. Do you think that maybe having that many people in charge is only going to make that worse?
Maybe. I think we don't know until we find out in a sense. Just in terms of like locally, I think what he sort of outlines looking for is something just different. Something that's not this sort of very rigid party structure. That is what they voted on this weekend, is sort of having the non-rigid, non-single leader, just a completely and wholly, in all their attempts, democracy. I think that they would frame it as. We saw from Warmisham earlier in the year, when he resigned from the Labour Party, that he said it's a party through the current national leadership that's lost its moral compass and no longer represents the communities it was set up to serve. What they're trying to do is just re-centre those communities, the traditional Labour communities, the trade unions, the general sort of the working class. I think they put it as the centre of the party through as much meaningful democracy as possible. We don't know if it's going to be effective, but it's definitely something different.
Next up on the docket today is a story that I think will be important to many of those in Manchester, especially those who commute to London. A ghost train, isn't it, Noah? There's a ghost train
running through Manchester Piccadilly. Who would have thought?
I know. I thought Halloween was over.
Halloween's long gone. We're in Christmas time and we still got ghost trains running through. Andy Burnham thinks Halloween is back because he's decided that it's time for upheaval and ghost trains to be abandoned. He's decided it's time for Christmas. And he's been successful, hasn't he?
Yes. For those that don't know, there was plans for a train from Manchester to London to run with no passengers during main commuting hours. That has since been overturned, and the train will run with passengers. Noah, do you want to tell us about what's happened?
Well, it was the controversy kind of arose when the office of Rail and Road initially sort of ruled that from mid-December the timetable would change, so the 7 a.m. weekday service would not carry any passengers. It's massively valued to commuters here. Super fast express services that runs non-stop after Stockport, arrives in London Euston in under 2 hours, which is quite a feat. Conveniently just before 9 a.m, which is traditionally the start of the working day. So if you're going into
a
London,
normal 9 to 5, yes.
If you're working in London, even if just for a day, if you can get that train and be in there for 9 a.m, I think that's massively business travellers, other commuters. And it became quickly dubbed the ghost train because under the ORR's ruling, the train would still have to run the entire route on schedule with crew on board, but entirely empty. So, I mean, why would they do this? Essentially, they explained it that the train and crew needed to travel from Manchester to London because the train was scheduled for subsequent passenger services running out of Euston later in the morning, so they needed the train in London. But I think what they ruled is that it was needed as a fire break path, which is a scheduled gap in the timetable intended to provide sort of slack in the system. So if other services running earlier or later get delayed, the empty slot would allow Network Rail to move trains around essentially, or reroute them so we can catch up on things. Essentially we're going to have an empty train. So we saw this, and what it led to was massive commuter outrage, and then Andy Burnham getting involved.
Andy Burnham has called it he said, "I am glad common sense has prevailed."
Anybody trying to get into London for 9 a.m, after that, I think if you're getting in at 8 a.m, you're not there till 10 a.m. You've missed the start of your working day, and unfortunately, you're not keeping your job if you keep turning up at 10 a.m. when you need to be in at 9. Obviously, massive outcry, and the fact Andy Burnham's taken measures is the reason why he's one of the most popular politicians in the country at the moment.
Yeah, I can say for sure. I think if you started showing up to the podcast now or late, you wouldn't be on for very long. So,
Look, I've tried it. I'm still here.
But no, of course. So he's also said that he's called for a plan for more services from Manchester to London. Obviously, that is something that's been talked about a lot. Improving those links. What do you think about that?
look, there needs to be more, really. We've spoken about, I think before on the pod, about the high speed railway, which has been on and off for so many years, and it looks like it might be getting scrapped now, which is disappointing. This is one of sort of the only major sort of high speed railway services in the country, and it needs to run so it can serve its commuters. What that 7 a.m. train has done over the past few years is get people from, and it has actually made Manchester a business capital, because it knows that you can do business here and then still stay the night and get back to London in time in the morning. That route connects these two parts of quite distinct England and made Manchester a business hub as much as London a business hub.
So it's very clear that the two need to be better connected, and I think that, you know, Andy Burnham's been calling for it. I also should say Rochdale MP Paul Wowk has also called it a win for common sense. So clearly, the general consensus seems to be that this whole mess was exactly that, a mess.
I'm not sure what they thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm confused on what they thought was going to happen here, really.
A train with no passengers on it, I must say I don't see
much appeal to it.
I think we can say this is a win for common sense, isn't it?
Sure. I think we'll leave it.
Next up, obviously, big news in Salford today. Massive news even. Salford Red Devils has liquidated as club's 152-year run is over. It's no longer a club, or at least as of right now, it's no longer a club. So the decision today came in after a minute-long hearing, and that was that.
It's crazy. I mean, it's been a staple of the community for so long.
I mean, there's not much to say, is there? It's obviously just such a shame that
it's been in and out for so long. We've had, you know, one week you'll hear that there's been some major action, there's been some major moves. The next week you hear that they're back in troubles again. It's a community club. It's something which has been the sort of the centre of Salford. They've had success, and I think it's been massively disappointing for people again to hear this news.
Yeah, the club's statement is as follows. We regret to inform stakeholders, supporters and partners that Salford Red Devils and its operating company, Salford City Reds Limited, have been subject to a winding up petition filed by HMRC, and liquidation proceedings have now commenced. We understand the gravity of the situation and the uncertainty this creates for everyone connected with the club. What do you think the future is for Salford City Red Devils right now? It's not looking good, is it?
The whole sort of controversies come from sort of there's been issues with their unpaid tax debt. It's reported to be over £700,000. We know the total debt, the club's overall, is reported to be in the region of £4 to £5 million. These are unfeasible numbers for a club facing the financial turmoil that they're taking. There was a failed takeover with the new ownership consortium in February. That didn't end up coming through, really. That expected to sort of inject the funding needs to clear the debt, and that would secure the club's future. But that never materialised, so there was repeatedly late wage payments to staff and players. There's a mass exodus of senior players then, which took place after that, when you lose the players in the club, and that like dampens the success. It means there's no money coming in the door, and eventually it's sort of just a downward spiral, a spiral which you can't stop because there's no money there to sort of stop the spiral, until you get to a point where the only option is administration and liquidation, and that's sort of where we're getting to now.
So obviously Salford Red Devils being such a core part of the community here in Salford. I've already seen online there's calls for, you know, taxpayers and the public to help foot the bill to try to give Salford Red Devils what they need to come back, I suppose. Do you believe it should be the responsibility of the taxpayer to front this bill?
They've tried every avenue, and this is supporters of this club. These are people in our community calling for people to step up for this. I mean, you have to understand the calls. They've enlisted foreign investment. They've thought there's going to be a takeover. There wasn't a takeover. They've tried to negotiate. They've tried to keep players, the loyalty of the players. But when you can't pay the players, you can't pay your staff, you can't pay the running fees, what club do you have? And that's what people are fighting for, really, because they're fighting for the club to even have anything. I mean, it's not even for the success of the club. This is for people.
Just to exist.
Yeah, just to exist. Yeah, which is a really, really sad time for the club,
especially after 152 years of existence. I think this is probably one of the longest running institutions in Salford. So to see it go down like this, or at least appearing like it's going to go down like this, is a real shame to the community. Elsewhere in Salford, though, there was protests in Media City earlier this week. Gracie Jones from The Shock tells us more.
We pay for the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. We pay for it, we own it, and yet they do not represent the people of this country. Even on British soil, we have people behind bars because they demand a company that is complicit in genocide to not be operating and making a profit from a genocide.
And that was Gracie Jones. Noah, would you like to tell us any more?
Yeah, so obviously we've seen this. This was outside BBC in Media City in Salford. Protesters sort of gathering outside some of the BBC buildings. It's been a long-standing issue there with both sides, actually, and both sides criticising the BBC on their coverage of the Israel-Gaza conflict. But this specific group were a pro-Palestine group of people who were there protesting about the BBC's, what they perceive as coverage which is biased against Palestinians. So there was a report, a comprehensive analysis by the Centre for Media Monitoring earlier in the year that said that the BBC did give Israeli deaths significantly more coverage per fatality than Palestinian deaths, and used emotive language, so words like massacre and murder, far more often referring to Israeli victims than Palestinian victims. And the other big story was the two documentaries that were originally commissioned by the BBC and eventually taken down from Discovery. So there was a Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone, which was pulled from iPlayer after it discovered that the child narrator was the son of a Hamas official. Critics did argue that the incident, which the BBC admitted breached guidelines, was weaponised to delegitimise all Palestinian-led content on the platform. And I think you can see a cooling effect on the BBC's output on Palestine after these issues have occurred. We covered a few weeks ago of Tim Davie resigning, obviously every different issue, and Deborah Turnus as well. But I think this has been a build-up. This is just one part of the BBC's issues over the past few months, but a sort of a staple of it has been the imbalance in their coverage more generally, and especially on this issue. It's become kind of a hot point, where almost a boiling point, where it's just like, how much more can they do to win back people's trust when the trust has just been so thrown away? And we heard from the guy in there who just feels the BBC is no longer representative of him or of people, and that's what the BBC was set up to do.
So that is the burning question, I suppose, for the BBC at the moment, is how much more can they take, controversy-wise? How many more scandals can they have before there has to be some serious consideration for reform? Reform within the BBC, I mean.
We've seen protests outside the London Broadcasting House. We're now seeing them in Media City. We saw them before, and we're seeing them pop up again. As much as people, maybe who were not so keeping up with it, might have seen the ceasefire deal and think we are looking at a past when we're referring to the genocide in Palestine. What we're seeing is people still coming out for the present of that. There's still people dying in Gaza right now, and what the BBC need to do is what they failed to do on other issues, is to really address these things, really make a point of giving this coverage, because it is their job. They're one of the most seen services, not just in the UK, but around the world, internationally, one of the most trusted broadcasters. And to see this level within the country of its origin, a lack of trust, degrading from what is traditionally seen in every polling up to date, that they are the most trustworthy, seen as the most trustworthy news output. If that begins to deteriorate, what is the state of democracy? It's highly important for democracy, and therefore what is the state of our other broadcasting? Does it make our other broadcasting outlets, do people turn to other outlets which are less less fact-checking, let's say?
Not nationalised.
I suppose that's probably the best framing for it, yeah.
Next up, tram strikes over Christmas or not, it appears. No tram strikes over Christmas, at least doesn't seem to be at the moment. Noah, can you tell us any more?
Well, we saw that the tram strikes were scheduled to happen over Christmas, over a busy period. We know that the trams across Manchester connect loads. I mean, how many times do you get the tram?
Several times.
Several times, right?
Several times.
Several times.
In the past 2 weeks, I've got the tram 4 times.
Okay, right.
So
They go to Media City, all the way out the other side, all the way to Altrincham, all the way down, all around the city, and right through the city centre, one of the best connected tram systems in the country. We know this because you can tell how busy Market Street is on a Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
I'm telling you, not all those people live in Manchester. There's not enough houses. They're all coming in on these beautiful yellow things that drive them into the city. And without them, our transport system is not built for a city of that size. The buses, there's a reason they're one of the best and biggest tram systems in the country. They get people about. The buses aren't able to do that on that scale. what we're seeing now is that the Christmas markets are going to see much more heavy footfall. Because of this, we did raise concerns. There was concerns raised by people that there would be impacts on the markets, impacts on local businesses over Christmas time, on the hottest times of the year for some of these smaller businesses which get to set up a stall. Salford Rum have got one. I gave a visit. They said the footfall's looking lovely. So no tram strikes for anyone is going to be a relief for the businesses, and I think a relief for the people who want to come in and have a nice Christmas time.
On the other side of things, however, though, it does appear as though a lot of drivers are saying at the moment that it seems like a matter of if and not, sorry, a matter of when and not if of a crash occurring because of fatigue and because they're not getting respect and they're not getting the rights and the working conditions they deserve. Do you think that maybe it is time for them to strike so they can try and get fight for those better working conditions? We've
seen the danger of the trams in the city. There's been commissions, there's been calls from people, especially in aftermath of some recent as this year, deaths related to the trams in the city, around the city centre even, right on the roads leading into Piccadilly Gardens. These are, central areas, these are big things. There needs to be safety precautions taken, and of course, there also needs to be care for the drivers who are driving them. And I think, the main points which they've raised in their mission to strike, fatigue, the incessant rotas, the rotas that don't work for them, really do need to be addressed because they run this city. I think it's very clear this strike wouldn't have been about pay, it would have been about the fatigue and the working conditions that they're under and the constant changes of rotas and that sort of thing. So I think, it is a real issue. And do you think maybe they're in the right to strike later in the month as it seems like they could be doing? They might do. And I think what is clear now is that they've had a response from the Greater Manchester Chief Network Officer who has said he's really pleased by this. Clearly, their striking would have had an impact. You don't get a response like this very welcome news, things like that, which they can really harness to get themselves a better deal. We know that it's not going to be over Christmas, but it could very much be in the new year. It could very much be when people are coming back from places over Christmas. Manchester Centre is busy all year round. These trams are highly important to connecting the city all year round, and any sort of strike would be detrimental. And I think that this is a sign that it was so close here that if they have it happen, it would be a major disappointment for the Greater Manchester network generally, and I think they'll want to stop it. So at the moment, the proposed strikes, if they do go on ahead, would be on the 19th, 20th and 31st of December. So obviously New Year's Eve there would also be striking. Moving on now, another story from Salford. A swimmer has done amazingly this year, a disabled swimmer. So Georgia Sheffield has won gold and bronze at the World Para Swimming Championships in Singapore. So bringing home bronze and gold for Salford. To Salford, I should say. To Salford. And I think she's made some school visits, am I wrong? I think there's some things like that. Yes, she's become a bit of an icon of Salford in the past few days. Build the statue. If I got my statue built, put it in precincts. one day, if I ever become a gold and bronze winning swimmer, I want a statue in the precinct. So back in September, she won it. She qualified for competition back in September, and then she won and brought these medals back. 200 meter freestyle. She nearly unlucky to miss out on that one as well. Would have been a third medal, so that would have been extraordinary. But her achievements have been crazy, and I think massively prideful, let's say, for the city. I think it shows how well Salfords have the up and talent coming through. Salford, we've got so many amazing talents and personalities coming through this amazing city. Celebrating 100 years of Salford next year. You've got Angry Ginger and I'm a Celeb, and now we've got Georgia winning awards. I think it just shows the quality the city has, and maybe we're finally showing how great Salford is outside of Manchester's shadow. And the council has been so supportive and really put in steps for specific people with learning disabilities. They've put funding into neurodivergency campaigns, even in recent months and weeks. So that campaign is not slowing down. Georgia was diagnosed with autism and a learning disability, and she said that swimming became a safe space for her outside of school. And then by 13, she was classified as a S14 swimmer, a Paralympic category for individuals with intellectual impairments, and then it's now gone on to bring back gold medals and bronze medals to Salford. If that's not a sign of what people especially in the north, which has faced massive underfunding for years. And a council like this, who put funding in the right places, can really achieve when you really empower these young people to do things. And that's what we're seeing. It's a massive success story.
We obviously hope to see her at the Paralympics next March.
Obviously. We will. I think she should be wearing a little Salford 100 years towel. Can we get her one?
Representing Team GB and Salford, of course.
Of course.
I think everyone from Shock has to say a massive congratulations to Georgia for that.
Can we get a ring? I want a ring.
We can try. We can certainly try.
It's a public call out.
Georgia, if you're listening, please do.
Georgia, there's a seat for you. We want to chat.
Yeah, we would love to. We'd love to speak to you. That has been the Shock News podcast today. I'm Will Phillips. I've been joined by Noah Buckingham. Thank you so much for watching and listening.